Hi, boys and girls. We are here today to continue to work on our small moment story. Where you are looking at the checklist right now that teaches us about the pieces and parts that a small moment story should have. So, yesterday, you should have read this over with an adult, and we're kind of moving through this checklist one item at a time. So far, you know you have a beginning and a middle, and your story lasts 2 to 10 minutes. Your lead or your beginning of your story tells the characters and the setting. So that's all on page number 1. Then page number 2 should be the middle of your story. In the middle of your story, you tell the most important part or what happened. And in the middle of your story, you are going to have 2 or more transition words. So yesterday, hopefully you highlighted 2 transition words or words that help the reader tell the order of the events. So some of you might have had to add an event. Bennett, when I was working with him, he only had one event in his story. So yesterday, his editing process was adding a second event so that he could add transition words that made sense. Writers are always making their stories better. The first time you write something, it's not its best. Just like the first time you try to tie your shoe, you don't get it right. You got to keep on trying and keep on working at it. The first time you try a layup, you probably don't make it. But the more you practice at it and the more you try, the better you get. So writing is like that too. So we've got to keep trying to get better. So we're still working on the middle. So you should still be working on the middle section of your story. Today, we're going to work on craft and elaboration. They're the 2 bottom boxes on our small moment story checklist. And the middle, like I said, is the most important part of your story. All of these arrows point to things that are included in the middle. So the middle has the most details. The first box is craft. Craft means I give details to make my story come to life. The second box is elaboration. Elaboration means I used adjectives, action words, and twin sentences to tell details. So we're going to look right now at a poster that just describes craft on one side and elaboration on the other. So you should have printed off this poster and keep it beside you when you're writing your story so that you know what ideas you can add to your story. First, let's talk about craft. Good writers write with something called craft. Craft brings your story to life. Craft adds personality to your story. So one way that you can add personality is by adding onomatopoeia words. Onomatopoeia is a huge, big word. And I put an example right there, screech. Onomatopoeia words are sound words. I'm going to use one of the pages from the story that Mrs. Hood is reading to you. Mr. Putter and Tabby dropped the ball. I've got it here at my house too. So this is one of the pages, and there's Zeke, and he's running with the baseball. And the first word on this page is glomp. Zeke got the ball. Glomp is a sound word. It's an onomatopoeia word. It helps the reader understand what you hear when you're in that moment. I put some other example sound words over here too. Boom, splash, clank, pop, zoom, bzz, crash, splat, crack. These are just a few. Any sound word that you can think of that might happen in your story, you can add. My first graders have a onomatopoeia word list in their yellow writing folder. So if you're in Mrs. Fitz's class, you can look in that yellow writing folder for examples of onomatopoeia words. And if you don't, you can use one of these words to describe how it sounds in your story. Let's go back to the chart now. And the first was onomatopoeia. The next thing was facial expressions. And you can see that I've drawn a happy face, a sad face, and an angry face there. So you might decide that you want to add craft to your story by making sure that the reader can understand the expression on the faces of your characters. The next one is bold words. Sometimes the writer wants the reader to say a word with more expression in their voice. If you want to emphasize a word or make the reader say it with more expression, you can make it bold by tracing over it with a marker. Labels. You guys are really good at this one. This just means that in your illustration, you're putting the word beside the picture to help your reader understand what it is. The next thing is dialogue. Dialogue means that you are adding exact words or phrases that the characters in your story are saying. Let's look at another example of from the Mr. Putter and Tabby book about dialogue. Here is Mr. Putter coming down the stairs. And if we look right here, this very first sentence says, "I think we need baseball," said Mr. Putter. Said is a word that helps the reader know that somebody in the story exactly said those words. So you write down word for word what the person said when you use dialogue. Dialogue can be introduced with the word said. It can be introduced with the word yelled. Somebody could scream. And most of these, you're noticing that these verbs are past tense. So they have an ED at the end or are irregular. Today I say it. In the past I said it. So somebody said it, somebody yelled it, somebody screamed it, somebody whispered it. If you're in a quiet situation, somebody could screech it if they want their voice to be very loud and maybe somebody mumbled it. So maybe somebody was feeling a little bit scared and they don't just say it, they mumble it. These are all great words to use to introduce talking in your story. And on this page, they just use the word said. And if you want to just use the word said, that's fine. "I think we need baseball," said Mr. Putter. Tabby opened the other eye. "I wonder where my old mitt is," said Mr. Putter. And you'll also notice that around the part the speaker is saying, there's something called quotation marks. So quotation marks go around exactly what the character says. So up here, Mr. Putter says, "I think we need baseball." So there's quotation marks in front of I, and there's quotation marks after baseball. So one way that you can make the middle of your story better today is by adding dialogue and describing what your characters say. The next thing that you might add is thinking. You can put this thinking either in your writing in the sentences, or you can add a thought bubble right here. And this is a thought bubble that says, "Get me out of here." So a dialogue bubble or a dialogue symbol in the illustration looks like this, but a thinking bubble looks a little bit different. It's got 3 dots coming out of the person's head, and then it looks like a cloud, and that means somebody is thinking. So you might decide to add some thinking into your stories today. You've got lots of options. I'm going to ask that you have at least 2 things from every side, 2 things from each side. So 2 from the craft side and 2 from the elaboration side. Elaboration, it means that you're adding details to describe what's going on. So adjectives can be details. Twin sentences that we learned about when we were writing our information book can be elaboration. Twin sentences just mean 2 sentences about the same topic. And action words. Action words are verbs. We circle action words and we draw lines to show that they're running. Action words are words that describe the way people move and things people do. And so there's usually motion lines after it to let the reader know that it's a moving thing. So I'm going to go back through and I'm going to keep my craft chart. And this was actually a chart that was in my classroom. I took a picture of it. I actually brought the chart home and it's hanging over there. But I thought this would be a better way for you to see my chart. I am going to keep this chart in front of me, and then I'm going to go back to the middle of my story, and I'm kind of going to check things off as we go, okay? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to insert a shape. Let's do like a heart How about that? And if I have it, then I will get to put a heart beside it. Let's make my heart red for love. Okay, so here's my hearts. And what I'll do is I will add these to beside my things once I have them, okay? And you might decide to highlight them. I'm just doing this because I don't have a highlighting tool. Maybe I do. We're just going to use the hearts, and I'll continue to learn more about that. Okay, so let's go back to my middle, and you'll notice yesterday I added transition words to my middle, right? Yes, here's the middle. The first page of my middle. Remember, my middle has 2 pages. So right away, what do I see? Right away, I see 2 labels, iPhone Zoom and me. And Stacy. Actually, I have 3 labels on this page. I've labeled myself, the iPhone, and my teacher named Stacy. I also notice that I have some speech bubbles. That's telling the reader exactly what I said and exactly what my teacher said. So I'm going to go to my craft page and I have dialogue. So I'm going to put a heart by dialogue and I'm going to put a heart by labels because those are 2 things that I already have just by looking at the picture. Okay, now I'm going to read the words. We were almost done with the class and the teacher said, oh, there's another example of dialogue because I used the word said. We had free time to work on headstand. Soon after, she could see me in the Zoom meeting. I was doing something wrong. She told me, I don't have any bold words there. I don't have any adjectives. So let me go on to the next page. She told me what to fix. Immediately after, I fixed it. And ... Now, this is not, I guess it's a bold word. That counts as a bold word. I capitalized it, so it's bigger and bolder. The whole entire word is bold. So I want my reader to say it with some expression. My legs started to rise. I did it. I screamed. So right there, I have quotation marks to show that I'm talking, and I have the word scream to show that I was excited. So if I go back to my chart, I've got more dialogue and I've got a bold word, right? Because I've capitalized all of the words in started to rise. So that's big and bold. And did you notice my facial expression? Do you notice what I showed on this page? You can 100% tell the way that I am feeling because of that huge smile. So I have a happy facial expression. So I can put a star by facial expression. So I've got dialogue, labels, bold words, and facial expressions. Whew. Wow. I've got 4. How many do I need to have? Just 2. But I'm in pretty good shape on the craft side. Now let's look at elaboration. Do I have any adjectives? I didn't have any words that describe my nouns, so I don't have adjectives. So let's go back to twin sentences. Do I have twin sentences? Yes, because I have lots of sentences that describe just one thing. Do I have action words? Action words are verbs. Fixed is an action word. Started is an action word. Screamed is an action word. See is an action word. Told is an action word. So I've got lots of verbs in my story. So I can also put a heart by action words. So do I have 2 hearts on each side of my craft and elaboration poster? Yes, I do. That means I'm in good shape. If you can't find areas in your story where you have these things, that's okay. Now it's your turn to go back and see if you can add something. If you need help adding any of these things, please email me and I would be happy to help you. Writing is one of my most favorite things ever, and I would be happy to talk with you on the phone or email you and help you out with some ideas. I cannot wait to see how interesting you are making your stories. I'm super proud of you, boys and girls. Keep up the good work. Remember, we're just working on our middle today. We're not moving on to our ending yet. The ending will come tomorrow. So just work on your middle. Try to make that middle as interesting as possible. All right, boys and girls, I know you can do it. And I just want to say, respect your mother that's in your house, and the mother called the earth. Today is Earth Day. Happy Earth Day. Please respect both of your mothers, the one you live with that helps take care of you, and Mother Nature. All right, boys and girls, have a wonderful rest of the day.